How's it going, guys? Midnight Rains here, back again. We're going to do the end of the guide for the types. It is up for the dark units. Scrolling down here, there's not too much. There is the Black Devil, but the Dark Devil is obtainable through events, and I think you can buy them with diamonds too in a 4-star and a 5-star. He has full field crit rate and attack speed versus just like only 3 units. He has potential to be good and maybe useful, especially early game. If you can have time to cast this increased crit rate. I wouldn't say I'd use him for the attack speed as much, but you won't even have to awaken him. You could just put speed on him or make him a little tanky. So there is that. He is kind of useful. The other one is the Witch Elika. She's kind of like the dark version of the light 3-star I talked about in the other video. Instead of silencing, she puts the enemies to sleep, and then when you awaken her, she also has the remove beneficial effects, and then sleeps for 4 turns instead of 3. Pretty cool. She's doesn't have too much. Her first move is actually kind of useful. If you can land that confuse, that's pretty cool. 2-turn confuse is hard to come by, and for a 3-star, that's pretty cool. I wouldn't say she's like end game material. The main reason I would use her is for TOT in floor 100 and hitting mid row. If you can't come across Falcon or anything and you're having a lot of trouble, you can't get Pross either. I would recommend her for that. Tart, I do have to talk about. I talked to somebody yesterday. You still get her when you make a new account. Pretty cool that they do that. I know she's a dark unit. I still have mine 6-starred, in fact. She does have an AoE, a full AoE. Once you awaken her, it's cross for now. But if you do need a reviver, great early game revive. I mean, right off the bat, you have a reviver. You can choose to either do 2 things, because she can remove beneficial attacks when she hits, and that increases skill power. It's only 2-2. I mean, that's pretty low. You can gear that pretty easily. Some make her a nuker and slash beneficial effect wiper, but you can also make her a tank. So you can kind of go in between. I know it says that she's an attack type, but I mean, like a lot of units, it's basically all depends on your equips that you put on your units. So, I mean, I wouldn't feed her off the bat. She's pretty good. I mean, I used her for a couple months, and then I got like Fermata, and well, I got Fermata. I didn't really use a reviver that much except for Tart, and Tart was pretty much my reviver. Gaff. He's pretty much looks like Harry Potter. He's one of the new units that they came out. I guess they're like the wizards and magicians. I think they're magicians. A lot of people are building him right now. If you get him, I'd hold on to him. We're all kind of trying to test him out and see if he's good in Nest. As you can see, I do not have him, so I cannot participate in the testing of him, but I'm working on Sadie and another unit. He consumes 20% of his HP to decrease 20% remaining HP of the enemy with the highest HP. Basically, it's going to hit the Nest boss and do 20%. That is confirmed. I don't think it'll counterattack because it just says decrease and it's not attacks. But, I mean, that's testing we still have to do. And then we got to see if it's worth it. I mean, it's only a 2 cooldown. That's pretty awesome. It won't get affected by Stokesha anymore. Which, if it did, that would be really cool. He'd probably be really useful. When you awaken him, he does do a... I mean, he still hits with an X formation, but it's not multi-hit. So, I mean, that's kind of sad. He is a 3-star, though, so I can see why he wouldn't wouldn't be as good. He's got a chance to recover when you use a skill, and then increase the crit rate. That'll help for this hit when, if he gets a crit, he does 2 times damage. So he's got potential. So definitely might be worth investing in, or just kind of wait and see what everyone else says about him. Stay tuned for that. Dro, Siren, Master Diff, Dish Thief, Gargoyle. Gargoyle had the wrong column, increased attack power. Personally, he does have like this recovery, but I kind of think the Unicorn would be better than that, you know? Metal Giant, great unit. I talk about him in the light video. The light and dark giants, especially if you have both, they make a great combo together as tanks. He's got the same self-recovery buff, and then he can do a cleanse once he's awakened, and also grants that immunity against all inability effects. He has a chance to make the enemy bleed when he's attacked, and then, of course, he has that damage decrease rate, which combined with this one, you know, it stacks. I think it's like 40. 50. Is it? Is it 50? 3? No, it's 40. Okay. Jeez, I'm a little tired here. Sorry, guys. But yeah, he's a great unit if you're farming or long farming, like TOT hard, mines and fort and such. Great unit. Vex, I looked into. He seems okay. It's the increased crit rate thing. I mean, the Dark Devil is kind of better than that. But again, you know, it's all situational about what kind of stuff you like to use. Champion Skull Lord is still a great unit for Nest. He hits 3 attack on enemies, and it's his cooldown that he increases that helps so much, because he doesn't hit very much. So, and that's kind of what you want in Nest later, is you want to increase the skill cooldown, but you don't want him to revenge hit you with this like attack equivalent to your attack with, you know, punch in the face. So it's kind of, you don't want to hit too much. So this is a great unit for that. He also has a back row confuse, which it can be pretty useful maybe in some other areas of the game. You know, some increase in accuracy, like I think it's the third, further away you are. Yeah, further back you are. So you can put him in like your back row probably, and he'll get that increase in accuracy to help him land that confuse and land what you now need as accuracy to land cooldowns. So that's pretty cool. And then decreases the skill cooldown of all skills. So you look up here. Yeah, you need to awaken them to get it, but it's 3 turn, turns into 2. A 2 turn cooldown to apply cooldown effects is not too bad. Alright. Strong BB. This is one of my units I'm working on. I'm gathering a bunch of them from secret dungeons. They're in advanced secret dungeon to get these ones, like I told in the light video. Both of these ones are worth stopping on. I use this guy as one of my offense attackers for a long time, because he's got this really high percent attack power, powerful blow. Usually, because of the Miho effect, you do 40%, and most of the time it confuses the target. It's pretty cool when you land that. That confuse really helps. Confuse is very powerful CC to land. You'll see a lot of these units, because we're in the dark, so they'll start using confusion. When you awaken this guy, it's the same as the light. I can't remember, I just call them all the strong units. I personally like BB because it's Evgenia is a lot more popular, and so a lot of people are starting to use more light unit. Everybody's, the game's been out longer, so people have been able to acquire more of the harder to come by units. Having that elemental advantage will definitely help in the long run, and being able to hit consecutively with a 50% chance. And I mean, this thing just can like mow down a row. With that, if that 50% goes off, of course you need good equips to do it, but I mean, it basically means whatever's in that row is dead. He can be a little squishy if you do choose to go with that route, but it's pretty cool. With a little coin flip, it can definitely change the game. Smoke Elemental, I kept mine. Kind of saw some potential in him. He's got that AoE nuke, and then I think he also has the ignore target defense. Removes beneficial effects was pretty cool. I liked that one. And then weakening, and then I like having the traits of beneficial effects cannot be removed with skills, so that's pretty cool. Recall, I see a couple people early game like playing with this guy. He's got like a 3-hit, some decrease accuracy with a chance. Alright, increase the crit rate and proportion to lost HP. I mean, I don't know. The final blow seems kind of cool. I'm not sure if it works exactly like Adonis, but it might be something useful. So, no, not worth overlooking. Especially a lot of the light and dark units, you don't want to feed them early game, even if they're free. Dynamis, or Dynamis, however you want to say it. This is like the key to B6 if you're early game, or if you just don't have the units or like LD tanks that can take the damage, or LD giants, I mean, that can tank that damage. This guy, you'll see a lot of people in game use this guy as their rep. That's so people can basically solo B6. It'll take a while. If you have a team, basically what you do is you line up Dynamis in the front, and then have something that can cleanse or fast enough to cast dots or has a immunity to stun, and it basically means like you win the game. And I'll go into that in a video. Great skills. He can actually do a little recovery damage. You don't exactly want him to heal at all, but I've noticed like sometimes like he heals out of almost dying. I think it's it's his traits. Increase the skill cooldown in the back row and confuse them for 2 turns. Pretty cool. You don't really want him to move when you're in B6, and that's about all everyone uses him for. Maybe like TOT hard, there might be certain floors, especially with like light units. This could definitely help out. Increases the damage decrease rate. Okay, these 2 traits you need to have activated. If you're 30% or under, it increases your damage decrease rate by 30%. And then you have this, which increases more damage decrease rate up to 25%. So basically, once you hit like 25, what is it, 30%, maybe a little above that, I mean, you're stacking both of these on top of each other. I think it's like 55% damage decrease, and that's not including like a special gem or maybe a trait from a different unit. I mean, you could use like Frenzy or something and stack that even higher, which is pretty cool. So he's definitely a great unit. Sneakers, I'll probably be going into. He's a secret dungeon unit. Honestly, he's not as good for like arena or something like PvP, but PvE, I think he's kind of overlooked. I might actually be making one of these for like my weird TOT video. I'll try to make like an easy to get unit tutorial, and then I'll try to build them up and then see if we can beat TOT 100 with just like some weird units people don't use. He's got some evasion rate increase. That's pretty interesting. It's not like a full board, but it's like a diagonal. He's got a front row nuke, removes some beneficial effects, kind of helpful. Sorry, my nose is bothering me. I just like thought I was gonna sneeze. I got his trait is pretty interesting. Again, I like the shield traits, as I talk about in a lot of other videos. It's the 5 times, but it actually goes over the whole team, which could be helpful for TOT and such. I've seen this guy actually tank Sables, so he might actually be something worth making for TOT. We don't know. I'm not gonna like throw him out there yet until I check him out, but we'll see how he does. We'll check him out. Cucullin, seems okay. I keep pulling her. Like, I think I've pulled like 3 or 4 of her, and I think I kept 1 or 2. Decent nuke. I want to test the create an explosion after 1 turn. I don't know if that's exactly like Scarlet. If it's like a dot, or if it's just like an invisible dot that can't be wiped off, would be pretty nice. But that might be something worth looking into. Maybe I'll check her out. I'll get back to you guys on that one, because you don't need to awaken her to do that skill. Attacks the enemy with the lowest HP, which is pretty cool, and nukes it. There's a unit I'll talk about later that does that. It's pretty annoying. Decreases skill cooldown, and then that 2 times damage when you crit. Of course, they have crit rate. She's got some interesting skill traits here that work. Basically, she decreases the skill cooldown when you attack with a crit. Then she has a skill that for every turn that she doesn't crit, it adds 15% chance to her crit rate. And then it resets to like her regular value after you do. And then she has a skill that if she gets hit and if the enemy misses the attack, so if you have like evasion on her, her next attack that she will do will be a crit. I know it's a lot of wording for some of these units. Card Master, when I first started this game, like the first month or so, there was like someone who had one of these. I actually haven't seen anyone else pull this guy. I don't know. Grants immunity against weakening, pretty awesome trait to have. Attacks with a crit. If the enemy's defeated on the next attack, that's kind of cool. Increases some bonus damage on weakening targets. Not too much. It's kind of cool if you can hit that 3 hits. I'm pretty sure that would go through a Miho and just kind of kill it if you could nuke hard enough. And then cross formation is always pretty cool. And then I think he debuffs, yeah, and removes beneficial effects. Yeah, so it's just like a regular debuff. Put some ACC on there, and he'll do that and nuke a little bit. Not too bad. Could probably be a lot better units to come by for sure. Going into the other unicorn. He does crit rate for full board. 4 turns. Again, I mean, it's not... You have to awaken him to get the full board. He'd probably be a better tank than the Dark Devil. But, I mean, Dark Devil could cast it and you wouldn't have to awaken the unit. If you were looking for kind of like a cheap access to that full board, I mean, I'd probably use that. But this one does have the share damage. And then chance to recover when you use a skill. And then increase the defense in proportion to lost HP. Pretty helpful. The max damage that can be inflicted on this guy is 25%. That one's a pretty cool one. You see that in a lot of pretty good units. I know, like Snowy and Sleepy have that. It's probably going to be really useful. PvP wise. I wouldn't say though to go use unicorns in PvP, but you never know. They might pop up someday. Maybe they'll get a buff. Murrah is pretty cool. He's got some potential. This is kind of like, again, like the Lang Qian, Massa, and then Peng, I think is the other one. He attacks the enemy consecutively. He does Confuse, which is pretty cool, and attacks up to 3 times. Pretty cool. The Confuse is always awesome, so I'd assume he's pretty good. This one actually does have a high attack and has the 35% chance to attack again. So, I mean, he could be compared with Qian for being pretty good. Increase the crit rate, pretty awesome. Attacks the neck. The chase ability is pretty nice for them. And then some bonus damage if you're closer to the target, which I think helps this move too if you're according to how close you are to the target. So that kind of some people use Qian in arena, and it would work the same for all these if they have this trait. Some people put them in the front row, I've seen, so they just like, they want them to go fast and they want them to nuke, and then they're like, I don't care if they die as long as they take at least like 1 or 2 units out. If they take 2 units out, they've done a great job. And I mean, that's pretty useful, especially if someone doesn't have a reviver. Murrah could possibly see some potential like Qian. It's just a little harder to come by because it's a dark unit. Black Dragon. Okay, non-legend dragons always have that overcome death. Pretty useful. This one, though, he has chance to remove. Is it chance? Oh, no, it's just like regular. Removes beneficial effects. So that's pretty useful. And then, of course, he has his nuke. The only thing I don't like about this guy is he has this trait where it increases the attack gauge to max if you use both skills. Okay, if you want an overcome dragon tank, you don't want it to increase speed or its attack gauge, because that reduces this. So if he uses a second skill, then he reduces down to 1, or it just kills himself. Not as useful. The thing I do like is the confusion, but I mean, that's kind of why he's not really the best. But it could be cool if you made him a speed version, possibly. Maybe if you needed that debuff, it could be useful, but it's kind of, that one skill kind of makes him not as useful. Dark God Neoman. Don't really see too much play. Pretty cool, though. He does have a confusion, but it's only a 50% chance. I think if you awaken him, it's 80? Yeah, 80% chance. That seems pretty okay. I know confusion's pretty cool, so I'll mention a lot of units that aren't as good but have a lot of potential because of confusion. The decreased cooldown is pretty nice, and increased crit rate by 60% of that unit. Kind of like Fire God, where I see some potential in that, but don't know. Immunity against confusion could help out, even in arena. And, you know, when you're killed, it does a little heal on the lowest HP ally. I don't know. I just see these units that have some potential. They just need, like, one buff or a different move, you know? They're so close to being very useful in different areas. Lucifer. This is actually a pretty awesome unit for farming. When people ask what's the best farmer, I usually say Turiel, because it's a 4-star and everyone gets it. This is a harder unit to come by, but if you do get it, this is a great solo farmer. He has a full nuke once he's awakened, which is pretty awesome, and can do a powerful blow, which will do like a, you know, basically like crit kind of deal. The accuracy for that is lowered when you use it, but it doesn't matter. You stack up the right equips, it'll be okay. He does a little attack, does some confusion with 50% chance. That's not the why people build it. It's for this nuke. And then he's got an attack power increase, and then counterattacks if his element is superior. The main reason is this trait right here. He gets greed like Falcon. But what makes him better than Falcon is that he decreases the skill cooldown by 1 for every turn defeated. But unlike Falcon, he has a nuke. So he can nuke board like Twee, or, Turiel, and go to the next floor, but not need, you don't need Turiel and Falcon. He's just a do-it-himself kind of guy. So, pretty cool. I know a couple people who, they farm hell mode with him, but not super high. Most can do, hard mode really fast, and then just use him on auto. He does pretty well. Possibly, might be a use for recovery gems, if yours isn't you notice it's using the other skill and not the nuke. That might be a reason to actually have recovery. So hey, we might have actually found a use for it. Going over to a Fate, I see some cross attack and then 2 random enemies. The skill cooldown is nice, but when you do see a Fate, it's mainly because of this trait here that once you awaken, goes for the whole team, and it gives you a chance to confuse targets for 2 turns. Pretty nice. It's kind of one of those RNG things, you kind of flip a coin, but when it lands, it's annoying, and so that is one reason I will give use, because her team trait. Hydra is awesome. I don't know why I see a lot of people pull this guy, and they're like, "Oh, is Hydra good?" And I'm like, "Okay, 6-star dark for one, and then the other fact is that confuses the enemies for 2 turns, and when an enemy is confused, you can't use their skills, and they can't regularly attack. It's a bad lockdown. It also can make the enemies, instead of regularly attacking, they'll attack their own players, and then if you have counterattack on, they start attacking each other, and I'll get into that for that, because I have a counterattack team, so I've seen it oh man, it makes you so mad. She's got a great trait that decreases weakening effects for the team, so that's pretty nice. And then some extra damage on there, and then where's it at? Recovers some HP if she defeats an enemy. You don't see that healing too much. It's mainly just they make this unit extremely fast, lots of accuracy, or they make her extremely tanky with lots of accuracy, and it just holds down that field. Great support unit. Would love to get one. Moving on to Jelos. I had this unit my first month into the game. I used her a lot, but now I don't use her as much because she's kind of squishy. When you awaken her, she still has this confuse, but I think it's 80% chance, and hits 3 units randomly. Causing that confusion is what helped me get further in the game. Even arena, it was pretty nice. I put I think I put 900 something speed on her, and if she went first at the time, 900 speed was awesome, and now top 20, you'll see people with 1400 something speed on their units, but if the enemy misses, oh no, it's just overall it increases the attack speed. There it is. If the enemy's defeated, she increases attack speed. I was thinking of Adonis. And then she also does some bonus damage if she hits units that are already kind of CC'd. this one kind of works okay. This is one of the reasons why you wouldn't put her on a defense. I might be trying her out for like 3v3 Guild Wars because it hits all 3 targets. Might be pretty solid. It also ignores the target's defense, so if they don't have Miho, it'll probably do some like heavy damage. She also, side note, does more damage than Turiel nuking. So, and it ignores defense, so it technically does more damage than Turiel. With a 3v3 Guild Wars, that would probably be a pretty solid unit. I'll definitely try her out for when that comes out. Okay, Black Queen is so good they nerfed her, and she's still good. I think she still should be good. I honestly think, I mean, a dark 6-star unit needs to have some bit of overpower to the meta just because they're so hard to come by. That's how games are. But I mean, she's not as broken as she was before. When you awaken her, she can hit 3 targets randomly, and it nukes, and then she has now she can only proc once with a 50% chance. It used to be multiple times like Cheon, and so this thing would go off like 5 times and solo your whole team, and that was the face of Wonder Tactics for a couple of months. I know, what was it? Summoner's War, the procs. I was thinking it was gonna get that way, but the devs are very forgiving, and they know when the community asks for something, which is pretty nice. Removes all beneficial effects of all enemies and confuses the targets for 1 turn. 80% chance, not that bad. You will actually know that this actually will usually confuse the whole team half the time, especially if your evasion isn't up on your units. And it's nice that that's a debuff right there. The whole remove all beneficial effects of the enemies. So if you don't have anything to protect that, that can be devastating. Decrease the skill cooldown of all skills by 1 if the enemy is defeated, which when you nuke like this twice, and with her, the amount of attack people stack on her, I mean, that's 80% damage from 1 proc if she hits the same unit twice. Most of the time, it's a little into the game for Arena, so usually, I mean, that KOs units, and then she can start using it again. Has a chance to recover HP, which is pretty awesome, kind of like that little sleepy, snowy effect. And then increases her crit rate as you try to kill her. So if you see this unit, you got to take it out quick, or if you have this unit, you got to keep her alive for as long as possible because she's a great unit. Nightmare is, I hear the few that have him say he is a good explorer. So it looks like we got a chance for some bleed on here. If an odd number of targets are attacked, so if it hits 1 or 3, it inflicts some extra damage. Attacks the enemies in the front, decreases attack speed with a chance. 45% is pretty lacking. Oh, yeah, well, there's a lot that decreased by 75%, 75% accuracy, sorry. So, I mean, 45 is kind of lacking, especially when he's a 6-star dark type versus, you know, just some, like, other random units. I don't know, I just, you know, you look at the skills, and it's just kind of like, this is a 6-star dark, what? So that kind of saddens me. But yeah, so not a lot of people use him. Kind of the same for this guy, Ninox. Attacks the enemy with the lowest HP, which is pretty solid, but it doesn't attack multiple times. Does some extra damage if they're above 70% chance. Well, yeah, here, same thing. and then he recovers some HP this time if he's awakened. Does a little nuke. It doesn't do much. Has some confusion in there. That can be nice. Decrease the skills if you're attacked with a chance. Some bonus damage. It's not too good. The immunity against silence, sleeping, stuns, and confusion is pretty nice, but his skills don't make up for it. He just doesn't have enough in there. I think if they buffed all of these, I want to say Falcon, Phoenixes, Birds, if they made this multi-hit, I think these characters would be used a lot more, especially when they nuke like that, where it's kind of like Adonis. Could definitely see a lot more play. Arodos is freaking awesome. It's one of like the best units in the game. When you look at Black Queen and Arodos, I mean they're almost they're better than some legends, or I mean Black Queen's better than half the legends in the game, but I mean these units are crazy good. I mean you you hit 3 units randomly and increase skill cooldown. So she has skill cooldown. And then you go to her, I mean she doesn't even need awakening and she does all this damage. But then you awaken her and she just does all this damage, has a chance to silence for 2 turns. And then her trait says she can have a chance to confuse targets for 2 turns with a 25% chance. The 25% chance is a lie. It's like 90% chance. I don't know why. I've even had like evasion unit, like an evasion team with like 90% plus evasion, and it still lands on the whole team. It's crazy. I don't know how it works. But I mean, it's a great unit. Stuns the target for 2 turns if you attack consecutively, and then increase the skill power of all skills and increase the skill cooldown by 1. Probably worth it, I think. I don't have her. I'm not sure if people activate that, but I bet they probably do. I mean, they make this this unit just a solid nuke. So if you pull either a Rhodos or a Black Queen, congratulations. The game is a lot easier. Delo, I've had this guy for a long time. I used him for Fortress B6 before people found out about Dynamis or Dynamis. He does like a powerful blow, does a little recovery of the damage, and you'll notice that, that's kind of similar to Dyna, So then you go over here. The cool thing about this guy is he does increase skill cooldown, and then removes beneficial effects, which is pretty nice. He has some use there. He has the patient skill, which is the same as like Haya, where if he's attacked consecutively, it basically it's decreased by 50%, which usually means if you have enough defense on there, it's going to do like 1 damage. Pretty cool. Creating a shield if you've used skills more than 2 times can be useful. Not too good. And then the increases the damage decrease rate up to 25% chance. What I did was I had Fenzi, so he increases the damage decrease rate. And then I had Delo, and then I had Amiyoji, and then like a couple other units, and that's how I was able to do B6. And then we all found out about what's her name? Dynamis, and then everybody started building that. And I'll get into like a farming video probably very soon. Salimar, when this unit first came out, we were all very scared, and now it's not as looking so much. It's not as bad. The attacks the enemy with the highest attack speed, and can attack up to 6 times instead of 5. And then if it doesn't kill the unit, which this basically does, it would confuse the unit for 2 turns with an 80% chance. I'm going to skip the other move, and we're just going to go over to, they have the first attack. Super awesome. This was the legend for the month that came out. So, of course, the first attack, letting you go first even if they have the higher attack speed, which basically meant I have the higher attack, and then you nuke their highest attack and kill it right off the bat, which usually was their immunity buff, their cooldown unit that applied CD to your team, or their CC unit. And so you took that off right off the bat. If they didn't have a reviver, it pretty much like changed the game into your favor right off the bat. You had a lot more control over your opponent. So, which it still can. It's just people use a lot more tanky units because of this now. Attacking 2 random units to inflict the 380% of the attack power. Not too bad, just because it's not multi-hit. And then increase the skill cooldown. Pretty awesome. I mean, if you... where's that? Yeah, and you get the double on crits. Still an awesome unit if you pull this one. This one's a nice legend. Mist. Mist is okay. He attacks 4 random enemies. Has a chance to poison. The poison is very helpful when he hits. That makes it an extra tick. Attacks the enemies in the very back. It's the reverse Adonis. And can burn the targets. That burn, I've seen that burn do so much damage because people have stacked up so much attack on this guy. He also, I think he has like Confuse. Thought he had Confuse in there. I'm thinking of another unit. Increase the team's skill power. Increasing the team's skill power. That's pretty interesting. I don't think any other unit has that kind of trait. And then also has the increase the attack power if he defeats enemies. Where's his other one? And removes beneficial effects if he crits, which is pretty nice. Especially when he's hitting like 4 and possibly all 5 units here. You know, depends on their spacing of their units. Okay, this is the character I wanted to get into, Omega, which is probably one of the best dark units right now, in my opinion, next to Black Queen and Crescent, which we'll get up to next. This unit is really annoying lately. He attacks a row of enemies. This is where both of his skills are amazing. He attacks a row of enemies 2 consecutive times, so he's got multi-hit, and then increases the skill cooldown of all skills by 1, attacking again with a 50% chance. He increases skill cooldown both times. And so he just he increases skill cooldown to where they can't use anything. Plus he just did like 80% chance damage, or not 80% chance, like 80% of your HP because he double hit. And then if he did hit enough with the proc, the row is cleared, and his other move attacks the enemy with the lowest HP 3 times, which basically means a one-shot because it gets through Miho, can make the target bleed, plus the same effect will be inflicted on another target if the one you attack died. I mean, and it hits the lowest HP. So the one that he should hit that he couldn't, that's in a corner, he does. It gets pretty annoying, especially when he double hits like that. I mean, he just takes out 2 units so fast. So this is one of the units I think is pretty scary in the game right now. Again, making the target bleed when you'd hit with a crit, so that can make the other move hit hit bleed if you stack crit rate up. Again, I don't think crit rate is a super priority when you build this unit, but I mean, if you can get like 40% or something, I'm sure that would do pretty nice. So yeah, moving on to Crescent. Crescent is a pretty awesome unit. We'll go over to this skill, which attacks the enemy in the first and the back column simultaneously, which is pretty neat. Nobody else seems to do that. Decreasing their skill cooldown, which is annoying. But the cool thing is that when you decrease the skill cooldown of all your skills, excluding this skill, by 2 turns, it's pretty nice. It's very, very helpful. This one is really what makes him shine is increases the attack gauge of all allies to the max. That doesn't mean you get to use another skill. That means that all the allies where their attack gauges, where they do their mini attacks, that can also help get off any debuffs, like if they're at debuffs, or if you want an off-the-bat speed buff, where you basically get 1 turn advantage over your opponent where they all attack, and to set up next play. Increases that attack gauge to the max, and then increases the skill cooldown of all skills of the enemies by 1. So it basically gives you that 1 turn advantage. Awesome. The attack gauge will be increased to the max if you used more than 2 skills. Or, I mean, 2 skills if you've used 2 skills. Increase the attack power, pretty nice, and then has a chance to recover part of the damage when you attack. He's a pretty awesome unit I'd like to have. And then, last but not least,